Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to your leave balance transfer training this year. And before we start, let's give 2 to 3 more minutes for other participants to join. Thank you. Okay, so again, hello everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to your leave balance transfer training. Thank you for joining, and we'll start the training now. I will be sharing my screen. And just a reminder that if you have any questions, feel free to send your questions in the chat, and we have our team to answer your queries. Let me just switch the screen. Hi, and welcome to your leave balance transfer training. My name is Nelsie, and I'll be the facilitator for today. Before we start, I just want to highlight some house rules. All attendees will be muted to reduce background noise. Webcams are not required, so feel free to keep them off. Due to the large number of participants, we won't be able to accommodate voice Q&A. However, you can still submit your questions via the chat box and we'll respond promptly. For those who just used the system recently or those who haven't done any transfer, so what does the leave balance transfer mean? It refers to the system transfer of unutilized leave balances from the current year to be forwarded to the next year's balance. This is the balance from 2024 to 2025. This process ensures that the remaining annual leave that the employee haven't used yet by the end of the year is carried over to the following year depending on your company policy. So where can I find the transfer leave balance transfer page? You can access this by clicking on the Leave module, navigate to the Administration menu, and selecting the Transfer Leave Balance tab. Next question, how do we do the transfer? So we have two options for processing the transfer, the automatic transfer and the manual balance transfer. In the automatic transfer, the system automatically processes the transfers for you. It only applies to annual leave. This transfer occurs at the end of the year with the actual transfer date set to January 1 of 2025. On the other hand, the manual transfer. This method applies to all leave types, including the annual and, of course, the other leave types. It can be done before or after December 31. In certain situations, you might need to perform a manual transfer earlier than December 31. For example, if you want to allow your staff to apply for 2025 leaves in advance, you can initiate the manual transfer right away. There's no need for you to wait for the system's automatic transfer at the end of the year. I'll demonstrate how to perform the manual transfer once we access the account. Let me provide further details on the automatic balance transfer for better clarity and comparison. As mentioned, this transfer is based on your annual leave accrual policy settings. If you are unsure about your current policy, you need to navigate to the Leave module, click on the Configuration menu, go to the Company Settings tab, and select the Annual Leave Policy Setup. Here you can check whether your policy follows the daily, the monthly, the calendar year, financial year, or employee anniversary. Let me give you different scenarios. When does this happen? Under the calendar year policy, the transfer of leave balances will take place on January 1 of 2025. When does this happen for financial year policy? The balances will be carried over at the beginning of the company's financial year. In the example that we have, if the financial year starts on April 1 of 2025, then the balances will only be transferred on April 1, 2025. When does this happen for employee anniversary policy? The transfer of leave balances will only occur on employee's specific anniversary date. Now let's go over to the manual balance transfer process. You can manually transfer balances for all leave types, not just the annual leave, either before or after December 31. As shown in the Leave Type section, there is a drop-down menu available. However, the transfer date cannot be modified as it will automatically follow the actual date of the transfer. So if we do the transfer today, it will follow the date today. When to complete manual leave transfers, you can transfer the balances from 2024 to 2025 period up until June 30 of 2025. Transfers initiated on or after July 1 of 2025 will apply to the 2025-2026 period instead. Is it mandatory for everyone to save the transfer settings? This applies only if your policy permits the staff to carry over the unused leave balances to the next year, because if not, you can skip the process entirely. After reviewing all the reports and determining the balances to be transferred, we can proceed with the transfer. How do we know if the transfer is complete? There are several ways to verify whether the balance was successfully transferred. The first method is to check the status. To do this, you need to go to Leave module, click on the Administration menu, click on the Transfer Leave Balance tab, then go to the Transfer History sub-tab. You will also find the transfer status on this page, which we'll cover in the next slide. There are three different transfer statuses: pending, complete, and a complete with a warning sign. In the pending, it means that the settings have been saved, but the actual transfer still pending. This status is typically seen by those who are using the automatic transfer feature because the transfer will only take place on January 1, 2025. So once the settings are saved, it will show as pending first, but it will be completed once the transfer has been executed. Completed. It indicates that the transfer has been successfully finalized. So normally you can see the completed status if you will do a manual transfer. Because if you do it manually, the balances will be transferred and it will be completed on that date. And the last status is the completed with a warning sign. It means that the transfer has been completed, but there are some errors encountered during the process. And the good thing is that if you clicked on the orange warning sign, you would know what is the error that you have encountered. And once you click on the orange warning sign, you will see the specific reason why or the exact error why the transfer is not complete. So commonly we encounter this grades not set up error. It means that the employee is not assigned to any leave grade. So this is also one of the things that you also need to check before initiating the transfer, is to make sure that everyone is assigned to their respective leave grades. As admins, you will also get an email regarding the leave balance transfer notification. In the email, it will state there how many employees with successful transfers and how many employees with failed transfers. So this is one of the ways how you can check. But in the system, we also have different reports that you can refer to check if balances are transferred or not. Where do we see the transferred balance as an employee? So if I want to check the balances that was transferred for me or the balances from my 2024, then I need to go to my leave dashboard. I need to go to leave adjustments, and in that table you can see the details on how many days was transferred for you. If you have any questions or clarifications, you can always send your questions in the chat box and my colleagues will assist you in the chat. And before we proceed with the demo, let me update you on the latest addition to the system this year. We've introduced a new report that you can access through the Balance Transfer tab. Under the Transfer History sub-tab, under the Actions column, you'll see an eye icon along with a newly added icon for this report. By clicking on the new icon, it will display the detailed information about the transfers that you've processed, including the employee name, remaining balance from 2024, balance transferred to 2025, the 2025 entitlements, the leaves taken, balances as of January 1. And the next part is our demo. Okay, now so let's log into the account. So once you are logged in, you need to go to the leave module, then go to the administration menu. In the administration, you need to go to the transfer leave balance tab. And on this page, you will see two sub-tabs: the transfer settings and the balance transfer history. Under the transfer settings, there are actually two different settings here: the automatic balance transfer settings and the manual balance transfer. The one in the left is the automatic for the annual leave, and the one in the right is for the manual transfer, which is for other leave types and also for the annual leave. In the automatic balance transfer settings for the annual leave, this is what you need to set if you prefer the system to do the transfer for you. And again, this is only available for the annual leave. That's why, as you can see in the leave type, it's grayed out because we cannot change it. Like there's no drop down available for you to choose from. And on the transfer date, it's also grayed out because the transfer date will be on January 1, 2025 for those who are following the calendar year. But if you are following the financial year, it will follow your fiscal year. And if you are following the employee anniversary, then it will follow the employee's anniversary date. So if you will be using the automatic transfer settings, make sure that all the configuration are set up before January 1, 2025. And when you click on the view configuration, there will be two things that you need to set. The leave balance days that can be transferred over to the next year. And the second is the transfer leave balance expiry, which we'll cover shortly. So in the first drop down, you will see here four options. First is all leave balance from previous year. Second is biannual leave entitlement days. Third is setting of the maximum days that they can transfer. And fourth is setting up the percentage that they can transfer. The first option is all leave balances from previous year. So this refers to any unused or unutilized annual leave balances from the current year to be carried over to the following year. So regardless of the number of remaining leave days, all leftover balances from 2024 can be transferred to 2025. If this is the current company policy that you allow, then you have to select the first option. The second option is biannual leave entitlement days. This option allows you to set specific conditions for transferring the leave balances based on the employee's entitlement or based on the grades that you assign them. So for example, if your company offers different leave entitlement for various employee groups, such as, let's say, for senior staff, they get 20 days. For junior staff, they get 15 days. So for the senior staff, with the 20 days of entitlement, they can only transfer maximum of 15 days by setting the conditions here. And the junior staff who get 15 days, they could only transfer 10 days. So since this is the conditions that I follow, the system will then transfer the balances based on the grade or based on the entitlement that they follow. This flexibility lets you set different carryover limits based on the entitlement level. You will also find a section where you can set an expiry date for the remaining leave balances. Here's an example. So based on the conditions that we have set, the senior staff who gets 20 days per year can transfer up to 15 days, right? So what if the employee will have 17 unused days? So the 15 days will be transferred to 2025. How about for the 2 days? The 2 extra days that exceed the transfer limit will not carry over to 2025. So by default, the 2 days will be forfeited at the end of the year. But in this option, you can set an expiry date. For instance, you might allow these non-transferable days to be used until January 31, 2025. But the remaining 15 days that was transferred will have a separate rule. Later, I'll show you where we can set the rule for that. But this expiry settings is only available if you will use the second, the third, or the fourth option. So the third option that we have is setting the maximum days of previous year's leave balances. So this allows you to specify a fixed number of days that can be carried over. So for example, you only permit a maximum of 5 days to be transferred. Just simply enter 5 in this field. This means that for Any unutilized or any unused annual leave balances from this year, employees can carry over maximum of 5 days to 2025. If some employees will have more than 5 days, some will be forfeited if you will not set any expiry date here. So that's the purpose of this. So let's say the staff with a balance of 7 days, the 5 days will be transferred to 2025. So the 2 days, what's the policy for that? Do you want that to expire at the end of the year, or do you want to give them like extra consideration to use that until January 31? And the fourth option is setting up the maximum percentage of the previous year's leave entitlement. Here, you can specify a percentage of the leave balances allowed to be transferred. So for example, if you set it to 50%, then only half of the unused leave will carry over to the next year, with the remaining balance forfeited unless, again, there is an expiry set for that. For instance, if an employee's leave balance is 15 days, a 50% settings is already set. So the system will transfer 7.5 to 2025, and the remaining 7.5 will be forfeited if no expiry date is applied. So this percentage can be adjusted depending on your company policy. It can be 50%, 25%, 75%, or another percentage that you follow. So after deciding how many days employees can transfer, the next step is to set the expiry for these transferred balances if needed. So you have two options in this part: the no expiry and the setting off expiry. This expiry applies specifically to leave balances that was transferred from 2024 to 2025. So for example, if your company policy states that the transferred balances must be used within March 31, 2025, you simply set the date here as your expiry date. So it will mean that all employees will have until 31st of March to use these balances. However, if your policy doesn't want to set any expiry, you can select the no expiry option, allowing the transferred leave balances to carry over indefinitely and will be added to the following year's available leave balances. So those are the two options that we have in this part. So once you have configured the two settings, setting up the transfer limits and setting up the expiry, make sure that you save the settings, okay? And after saving it, you will notice that the transfer status will show as pending in the history, which indicates that the transfer will automatically be completed on January 1 of 2025 as per the automatic balance transfer settings. Now let's move on to the manual balance transfer settings for all leave types. In the manual transfer, you can transfer balances for any leave type configured in your account, including the annual leave. And this feature is useful if you are allowing the staff to apply a leave for 2025 leave balances in advance. So you don't need to wait until the end of 2024 to transfer those balances. Now let me give you the main difference of the manual transfer and the automatic transfer. So in the manual transfer, you can select on which leave type you want to transfer. But in the automatic, we can only transfer the annual leave. And in the manual option, it will let you choose on what leave type you want them to carry over, whether it's annual or a different leave type. And also, for the manual transfers, the transfer date will be the current date. So when you initiate the transfer, it will serve as your actual transfer date. And when you click on the view configuration here, you will see similar settings, similar drop-down options as you have in the automatic settings. You can select the policy that you're following and then set your expiry for the transferred balances if it will have an expiry date or no expiry if applicable. Then after it, you can just save the configuration under the manual. Then you have to hit the transfer button to complete the transfer. Now, just a quick recap. If you want the system to perform the automatic transfer for you, you will use the automatic. But if you want to perform the transfer now without waiting for the year end, then use the manual transfer option. Let's go ahead and try it under the manual transfer settings so that you can see how it works in real time. You need to click first the view configuration here, and you will see 4 options. Again, the settings are just the same. First is the all leave balances from previous year applies to transferring of all the balances of the staff. Next, biannual leave entitlement days, allowing you to set different conditions depending on the company leave grade settings. Third, setting up the maximum number of days that you want to transfer. And fourth is the setting up of the maximum percentage that you want them to transfer. Additionally, there's this expiry settings so that you can choose if you want to set an expiry for the balances that we are transferring or no expiry. So for this transfer that I'll be doing, my transfer settings is all leave balance from previous year, and I'm not gonna set any expiry, so no expiry. Just a quick reminder, make sure that there are no unapproved pending leave applications before you initiate the manual transfer. Otherwise, it may cause issues in approving the 2024 leave request if you transfer all the balances. Now, let's go back and let's click on the transfer button. A pop-up message will appear like this, and you just have to check the message, then click on the confirm button. So afterward, you'll see a message in your screen confirming that the manual transfer has been completed. From here, we can move on to the transfer history tab. And in this page, you can see all the records of all the completed transfers that you have attempted, including those in previous years. So right now, you see that the status will show as completed, meaning the transfer went through successfully without any errors. And when you click on the eye icon, under the actions column, you can view the details of each of the transfer, including a summary of the settings that you have selected at the time of the transfer. So here are the settings that we saved earlier before we initiated the transfer. Our leave type, of course, is annual. The balance is all leave balances, and the expiry is no expiry. With that set, we can close the configuration. However, if you see an orange warning icon, this indicates an error. For example, in the previous year, I encountered an error because some employees didn't have any leave grade that is assigned to them, which means that they have no annual leave entitlements. And that is what's causing the error. To view the details of your transfer, including the error, of course, you can click the eye icon. And if you encounter this error message, no entitlement error, here is how you can fix it. So for those employees without any entitlements set, you need to assign them at least a leave grade. So for those employees without any entitlements yet, we need to assign them into one. So here are the steps how you can do that. You need to go to your leave module, click on the administration menu, And then you need to select the Entitlement and Details tab, the second tab. And in this section, you will see a column called Leave Grade. If any employees are missing a grade, you can assign a leave grade to them from the drop down. Okay, so after this, make sure that you update this page as well. So after correcting the leave grades, you have to simply return to the leave balance transfer page and reinitiate the transfer. So manual transfer don't have a limit, meaning you can repeat the process as needed to make the corrections. Now that we've covered the transfer settings and the configuration, so what's next? After completing the transfer, it's very important that the balances would reflect correctly, right? So there are different ways how you can check this. So the first way is by going again to the Entitlement and Details tab. Go to Leave Administration, then Entitlement and Details tab. You need to set the filter to 2025 so we can check the balances. Since what we set earlier in the transfer is no expiry, the transfer leave will appear under the opening balance. But if you set an expiry, the balances will instead appear under the adjustments. Another way to verify the transfer is by running a leave balance report. Go to Leave Reports, then go to the Leave Balance Report. This report will show the 2025 entitlements along with any 2024 balances that have been transferred, giving you a comprehensive view of each employee's updated leave balances for the new year. What if after the initial transfer, you decided to set an expiry after that? Can we still do that? The answer is yes, that's possible. We can still set an expiry date after the manual transfer. You just have to follow the same steps like earlier. Go to Leave Administration, open the Leave Balance Transfer tab. You just need to adjust the settings. Go to Manual, choose the leave type, click on View Configuration, adjust all the settings, then perform the transfer again. Just make sure that you follow your company's policy on the leave transfers. So earlier, what we set is all leave balances from previous year without expiry. But this time, we're gonna set the transfer limit to 50% by using the maximum percentage. So I will choose the fourth option, then I will set it to 50%. And in the expiry settings, I will now set an expiry date to June 30, 2025. So employees can use the transfer leave only until that date. Once you're ready, and if this is the final settings that you want, click on the transfer button. Again, a new pop-up window for the action would appear, and you just have to click the confirm action so the transfer will be successful. And again, you will be getting a confirmation message on your screen to let you know that it was successful. To review it, you need to go to the Transfer History sub-tab. Then you may go ahead and click on the eye icon. So next, we can check now the leave balances or the updated leave balances after the second transfer. So to do that, you need to go to Leave, Administration, Entitlement and Details tab. You need to refresh the page. Since we set an expiry, the transferred balance will now appear under Adjustments column. So in summary, if the transfer settings is with expiry, the balance will show under Adjustments. But if the balance transfer is without expiry, it will appear under the Opening Balance column. Another way to verify that is when you go to the Adjustments tab. Go into this tab, then go to View Adjustments History. Filter this by 2025. Make sure that you are looking at the correct year. You'll see a remark noting that the balance transfer is valid only until June 30. As admins, you can also run a report to verify the transfer. Now, the reports that you can use is the leave balance and the leave individual report. In the leave balance report, you can select which employees you want to add or all the employees. Then, of course, the annual leave, then choose the year, then generate the report. Once the report is ready, you can open it by clicking the eye icon under the actions column, and you'll see the balance from previous year column along with the current available balance. Since the last transfer that we set was with expiry, the balance now will display under the adjustments column. And for end users, for our employees, how can they check the transferred leave balance? They need to go to Leave Dashboard, then click this button, Leave Summary. Here, they'll see both the 2024 transferred balance and the 2025 entitlement, which together make up their annual leave balance for 2025. In summary, where the transferred balance appears depends on your transfer settings, whether it's set to no expiry or with expiry. For no expiry, the balance will be added to the next year's opening balance. But for with expiry, the transferred balance will show under adjustments and also in the leave balance report adjustments column. To wrap up, we've covered the key points. Since I mentioned in the house rules that I cannot accommodate voice question and answer for today, please feel free to submit all your questions in the chat, and my colleagues and I will respond there to do our best to provide you answers on a timely manner. Thanks for attending today's training. While we're waiting for more questions to come in, we just wanted to quickly share some of the most exciting new tools available at JustLogin. We've recently launched a bunch of AI-powered tools like an AI chatbot, helping you gain insights and analyze your HR data using our casual prompts, such as who's late today, who has worked most overtime hours this month, or how much commission was paid out in quarter three. Next, we have the appraisal, a performance management system helping you gather, track, and identify your best assets in the organization just in time for your year end review. And last but not the least, we've relaunched recruitment. Now, with the additional AI powered enhancements helping parse resumes, scoring the candidates, and compare the best and the most relevant applicant to narrow down hundreds of resumes to top 10. If you're interested to see how these new tools can make your working life better, request a guided trial with your dedicated customer success manager or indicate your interest in the upcoming poll to understand how your companies can benefit. Now, we'll be answering the questions that was raised in the chat. And if you have any questions or clarifications, you can contact our customer support team from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. except during public holiday. And I want to thank everyone for your time in joining this leave balance transfer training. Thank you and have a great day. Okay, so that's it for the training video of the leave balance transfer training. You can still send your questions in the chat, and we have a team who will be answering. But I'll be choosing some of the questions here and I will be answering them. Okay, let me just check. I got a question here. Only the annual leave type can set
expiry date for manual balance transfer, but not all leave types. Actually, you can, even if you were transferring a different leave type, you can still set an expiry if you will choose the set an expiry settings. Let's say you will be transferring the unutilized, maybe often leave, so you can still set the expiry. Okay, another question here. Does it mean that if our company policy is 50% of 2024 to carry forward for all staff means I can just do automatic mode? The answer for that is no, because even if you are using the automatic or the manual, you can still use the 50% policy. That option is available for both configuration. Do I need to check the grades first? It's okay, because maybe what you need to check is if they have a grades assigned to them. But once you are sure that they are assigned to their respective grades, you can initiate the transfer with the 50% settings. It would work. Another question. I have added all the grades in the system. As earlier mentioned, our staff will have different leave balance transfers. In these circumstances, do I use the automatic transfer or manual transfer? So if your employees will have a different number of annual leave entitlements per year, I would recommend that you use the second option, the with conditions or based on the annual leave entitlement days, because when you set the condition, you are free to what call this you are free to assign that for this employee they can only transfer this number of days. But for your question, do you need to use the automatic or manual? You can use either automatic or manual, because you will still have that option to edit your conditions. By the way, we've already launched the poll, so feel free to answer the poll question that you see on the screen before you leave the session. Let me get some questions more here. Okay, let me try again. Employee A applied for 2 days leave in Feb 2025. His leave entitlement for 2025 is 15 days, and there is a 4 days leave balance in 2024, which will be transferred into 2025. So this 2 days in Feb 25, will it be deducted from the 15 days or from the 4 days, as it will have an expiry date on March 25, March 2025? So it actually depends when are you going to initiate the transfer. Because if the leave is already applied, like today, if it's already applied, it would get the balances from 2025. But if you have conducted the manual transfer already and the balances are in 2025, then the 2 days and the Feb 2025 leave should be deducted from the 4 days. Again, our poll is now live, so you can answer the poll. Let me answer one more. For new staff who currently has no leave because they're just serving probation, how do we handle this leave transfer? So even if the staff just joined the company or even if they are still part of the probation period, if you do the leave balance transfer using the tab that was covered today, they will still be part of the transfer because we don't have any option like to select who are the employees that is included in the transfer. When we do the automatic, when we do the manual, everyone in the company is included. So if they are still in the probation period this year, they don't have entitlement. So the system doesn't have any leave to transfer to 2025. Let's get some questions here. Thanks for answering my question, but I had just checked the system. The expiry date is grayed out. I can't set any expiry date. Oh, this is regarding the leave aside from the annual leave. Maybe we could check that for you. We'll be sending an email after this, and also the training video will be shared to all the participants today. But I'll do check that. With a question here, can I use the option 2 biannual leave entitlement days to set the carryover 3.5? So if this is the maximum or if this is the only leave days that they can transfer, yes, you can also use the option 2, but another option is the option 3, setting up the maximum number of days and then set it to 3.5. I also saw a question here. The automatic leave transfer will overwrite the manual leave transfer I made today. So if you already process the manual leave transfer, if the status is already completed, then balances are already transferred to 2025. A question here. This is the last question that we'll be answering in live. Then the rest you can send us an email so we can still help you for your questions regarding the leave balance transfer. Last question. So for individual changes of leave, we will need to do manual update after the automatic leave transfer. Yes, you can. you can still edit the balance or the 2024 balance transfer if you will edit that in the entitlement and details page, opening balance, or if you will be doing an adjustment like a credit adjustment, so you can set an expiry, because in that way you can still give them the 2024 entitlement. So I think that's it for now. So for everyone who haven't answered the poll question yet that you see on the screen, please feel free to answer the poll before you leave the session. And for any questions or clarifications, you can message the onboarding team, the support team, for questions regarding this leave balance transfer training. And I want to thank everyone for your time in joining this leave balance transfer training today. Thank you so much for your time and have a great day.